to Lewis Wells. Congratulations! You may be seated. Thank you very much. I think you'll all agree that was a fantastic, amazing ceremony. Just a bit of housekeeping again while we're getting sat down. We've only got one source of music all night, that's the phone. So if you all don't mind leaving the phone be, and Samir and Abby, apparently that applies to you the most. So yeah, if you could all leave the phone be, that'd be brilliant. The place names you can all see in front of you have been specially made. And Miranda and Rory have asked if that's alright, if you could just leave these on tables. They're going to be made into a collage after the wedding. How lovely. So yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you. Thanks for coming today. As I'm sure you're all probably aware, I'm Jerome. I'm Miranda's brother. Hello. Sorry I'm reading off the phone. I did have a few lines prepared, but I've done them in the toilet. Sorry. That's as bad as it gets. For some reason she's trusted me with a microphone, which is mad, but hopefully I'll do the old vegans proud. So I think everyone's mentioned they were vegans already, but it saves everyone the bother. Anyway, glad you could all meet us here in the middle of nowhere. I knew that Duke of Edinburgh award would come in handy with the Saturday playing up. Speaking of noble Scotsmen though, I'd like to thank Rory for finally marrying my sister after 10 years. At least 12. Rory, jokes aside though, you're the brother I never had and now have, and I love you. So I'm getting emotional. Thank you for being you, and welcome to my family. You're a legend, you've stuck with us, and you're stuck with us for life. Gutted. It's amazing getting to know you since I first met you. When I came in drunk, my mum was like, don't do anything stupid, but Miranda's got a new boyfriend upstairs. He's called Rory and he's really nice. So naturally, me being an idiot, I went upstairs and jumped on him and was like, "Way!" But he dealt with it all so well, and he's absolute legend, so thank you. Thank you very much. Also, I've already converted Rory into an Arsenal fan, so that's a brotherly chat done, because Miranda's far more terrifying than me. Miranda, where do I start? Basically, in short, you're simply the most compassionate, loving, selfless person I know, and you're always there for anyone, including me. You've been there for me over the years, and thank you for that. Thank you so much. You've been my oldest best friend for the longest time, and always will be, and I'll always do anything for you. Thank you. Thank you for trusting me with this. On top of that, you're so talented and beautiful inside and out. I'm so happy for you today, and I love you so much. And I'll honestly appreciate you more than you can ever know. Congratulations to you both. And without further ado, I'll now pass the microphone over to Mrs. Lewis Brown.
Hi. Can you hear me at the back? Penguins. Okay, I'll do it now. Here? Yeah, is that... You trying to tell me how to hold a microphone? No, I'm joking. That was meant... Sorry. I was actually trying to make that sound jokey, but it came out. But, thank you for the tips. Hi, everyone. I'll start again. Rewind. Hi, everyone. My husband and I... we'd like to thank you all for coming today, so thank you. I appreciate how much effort it takes to attend a wedding, especially when the trains are messed up and road stuff. I don't drive, so I don't know what actually happened, but car things. So I'm really grateful that you're all here to celebrate with us. I've never really given a speech before, except for the quite unusual speeches that my old friend Leah has periodically given me to do throughout the years when I've had a few drinks. The last one being our really awkward school reunion, but I've put a lot more thought into this one, so I'm confident it'll go a lot better. I first started talking to Rory in the golden days of MSN Messenger in year 13. Gen Z don't know what they're missing. Our friend Matt Cook had gone from my school to Rory's school, and one day I got a call from Matt off of Rory's phone for Rory to get the number of a girl in the year below me. We all know it's Harriet now. Here's the Harriet. And when I texted the number to see who it was, Rory replied with, "It's Rory from GX." Clearly trying to make Gerald's Cross sound cooler than it was. He failed miserably, but we started speaking for a while on MSN Messenger, and eventually met on my 18th birthday in Revs. Yeah, Revs. Woo, Revs! We started seeing each other, usually in the dead of the night after Revs or Winkers, which was voted the worst club in England, and people in Buckinghamshire are really proud of it for some reason. So, yeah. But I think it's one of those places that's so bad that you always have a good time. Anyway, I've missed a bit. I'll go back. I met Rory's family a few weeks later at his Aunt Kirsty's birthday party, and awkwardly, very early on, his oldest brother Craig and I were dancing, just the two of us, to Like a Virgin, 5 minutes into the meeting. After being enough round family weddings by now, I know it's a rite of passage to mention how overwhelmed I was by their collective height. They're all really tall. I'm sure you'll be told that numerous times today, but I got there first. Aside from their height, I was mostly taken aback by how friendly they were and how positive. They were all incredibly welcoming and chatty and made it really easy to feel comfortable around them. It's this trait in them that I continue to see and value now, their warmth, friendliness and approachability with just about anyone. I really do consider all of the Browns and Malone Browns my family and feel really grateful I knew them whilst I was growing up, especially for giving me my love for group and organised games. Speaking of growing up, I should mention my own family. Those who know my family well know that all 5 of us are fairly emotional, sensitive and vocal. So it's fair to say the Lewis household was at times quite chaotic. As middle child, I took on the role, and sometimes still do, of mediator. And I'm not one to blow my own trumpet usually, but I was so good at this job that if it were a real job, I would have got a promotion aged 8. Can't deny that. This is one of the reasons I didn't feel I could part with the Lewis in my name, as I know they're still going to need me from time to time to head a family intervention.
Not that dysfunctional.
Aside from the chaoticness, our house was filled with a lot of fun, a lot of music, often to Jerome's frustration, and a lot of silly made-up characters. My parents are known far and wide for getting many people through various GCSEs, myself included. I was incredibly spoon-fed. But are 2 of the kindest, most giving and most eccentric people I've ever known, and have always supported me in everything I've ever endeavoured, so thanks. My brother and I are different in many ways, the most notable way being his thick Cockney accent. Don't know if you noticed. We actually grew up in exactly the same house. But he's always been such a warm, distinctive character and a very huge part of my life. And I'm really glad he's able to be here today, as he's recently had a baby boy called Theo. My sister is my sounding block, mostly because we are neurotic in a very particular and similar way. So really understand each other. My mum often says we're like twins, and it definitely feels that way to me. Weddings aren't about friendships, but as Hugh Grant said in About a Boy, no man is an island. It's a great film, let's not deny the reference. And Kathy Burke theorised in her Channel 4 documentary that platonic friendships are more essential than romantic ones for a person's happiness. Friendships define us, I think honestly more than anything, slowly but surely over the years, and as someone who is incredibly dependent on my close friendships, with my incessant voice noting and need for deep analysis on unnecessary things, I wanted to take the chance, whilst most of you are in the same room, to say thanks. It's very powerful having so much applause. I know I definitely agree with Kathy Burke that my close friendships are completely essential to my happiness. I've left Rory till last, mostly because, honestly, I couldn't think how to summarise our 12-and-a-half-year relationship into a speech. When I was first thinking about this speech almost 3 years ago, the longest engagement in the world, I told someone that I was intending this to be just one long roast against Rory, including things like he didn't know his own official name till he was 24. It's not Rory-Fergus, sadly. Or that he can hold his breath under... sorry, let me start that again. Or that he can hold his breath underwater for 40 seconds on his CV when he was younger. He's going to deny it, but he did. Prove it. But they pointed out that was a bit odd, and as I'm sure is obvious, I'm not a stand-up comedian, so I decided to go for a different approach. When Rory was younger, one of his things was that he didn't make a good first impression, as I'm sure many of his uni friends remember. So I can't lie and say I was bowled away when I first met him. I fell over, and he actually ended up kind of insulting me. But my second impression was great, and I can honestly say I've only liked and loved him more as the years have gone by. As was touched on earlier in the ceremony, Rory and I are different in our mentalities towards life. I view myself as a realist. What? Whereas Rory exudes positivity and hope. Yeah, great. Here's one for the positivity. And I'm a person of moderation. Why doesn't that get shit? Moderation! Whereas Rory is a person of extremes. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's great at times. I know despite our endless need to constantly debate each other, we complement and balance each other out well. But for me personally, Rory is a constant drip feed of beta blockers with a side of encouragement, even when I come to him with really niche things like suddenly wanting to work the puppets. Despite supporting each other, we love nothing more than trying to catch each other out and are very competitive against each other. Rory still says can't be asked instead of can't be asked. It's not real. So as not to prove me right that it's not a real turn of phrase. And once, after I posed as a fake salesman to his work address to humiliate him, when Rory, having figured out it was me, told me the police were getting involved, I had to weigh up what was more important. Not having a criminal record, or trying to get Rory to believe my scam. We've known each other through so many stages of life, and thinking about it gives me that nostalgic feeling you have when you remember an old series you watched years ago. When you know someone consistently and thoroughly for such a long period of time, you get to know lots of different versions of them. All the unevolved, unsure, and constantly changing versions. I knew I wanted Rory to be my person back when he was the version of him that had a hairstyle that resembled an 80s porn star. When he had a body clock that would have made a 15-year-old stoner confused. And when he didn't even know his own full name. Who needs a whole name anyway? I knew, or I hoped back then, because as I said in my vows, he quickly simultaneously excited and challenged me, yet also felt like comfort and warmth. I feel like looking back on all the different segments of our life that we've shared together and all the different versions of Rory that I've known, been frustrated by, been in awe of, been amused by, and been inspired by, I'm so grateful that we grew up together. I know I'm a lot more of a kinder, more enthusiastic, more fun, more determined, and slightly more positive version because of him. I want to toast to Rory, but also to the different versions of ourselves, because however we feel about them at the time, they lead to great things.
Amazing. What a lovely, lovely speech. Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone's favourite hero, the bald OG, the proudest man and head of our clan, someone who deserves his own Lifetime Achievement Award in marriage. Sorry, Mum. Brace yourselves, ladies and gents. This is going to be emotional, and that's just a bit I've read about how much he loves his car. It's a Kia Estate, if anyone wants to know. Someone please help him on his way up, bless him. The man, the myth, the absolute legend, from Cheshire, Buckinghamshire, Anthony Lewis.
Go back.
Yeah, go back.
Go back. Go back.
Keep going.
You're doing our job for us.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me without a microphone? Yes. No. Okay. Well, I am drama trained, you know. Okay. Hello, everyone. I have been looking forward to this moment for a long time. Very long, in fact. As Rory and Miranda have been together practically since the invention of the microchip, I've often wondered, as did Ruth, if the question of marriage would be popped by either of them every time they went on holiday. Ruth and I would say, will he? Will she? Will they? And then they'd come back and we'd say, how was the holiday? And Miranda would say, very nice. Rory would say, yeah, fine. And that was it. And it went on. I mean, it was 12 years. That's 4,500 plus days for their relationship to ferment into something that ended in marriage. But here we are. Happily, we are all here, a little bit older, actually quite a lot older, and thankfully celebrating the joining of these two, when I say thankfully, I mean we are thankful, these two highly agreeable, not to say lovable people. Well, they are lovable. As father of the bride, FOTB, okay, it befalls me to bring up some anecdotes and stories about Miranda that are designed to make her blush, but not so awful as to make her resent this speech for years to come and put arsenic in my tea when I'm in an old folks' home. Because actually, being 66, that won't be long. I think this moment from the FOTB is designed to show in the Jesuit sense of give me the child at 7 and I'll show you the man, or woman, or person. So here are some anecdotes. I shall start with them. But before I do, I want to clear up a couple of things, a couple of misconceptions about Miranda. Firstly, darling, let me tell everybody here, you are not the sensible one. She hates being thought of that way when people assess the three siblings. She says it makes her look colourless and boring compared to her rather eccentric siblings. She has, in actual fact, a wicked, off-the-wall sense of humour, and she's very lovable, and she has some very mad idiosyncrasies. I must admit, the other two have been a handful at stages in their lives. I mean, Francesca is wonderfully barking mad. She's had years of mad and often wet years in primary school. And now, it's all right, I cleared this with her before. and now is often violently coloured, her hair like traffic lights, and bits of metal skewered through various parts of her head. She's a brilliant musician and very sweet, but she was a mad child by her own admission. Jerome, too, you've met Jerome. And nobody could be better suited to being the barker for the occasion. All right, everybody, going up for fun. Right, I want the family. Just no, you can go away. You can piss off. He's a demonstratively larger than life character who I love for that. Who one day, just as Miranda already said, he just decided to come home as a cockney. You know, he went to school saying, "Okay, father, see you later." And then he came home and said, "All right, Dad, how's it going?" Even though he's never once been within the sound of Bow Bells, you know. But he's achingly funny. He's quite outrageous and not quite sane as he supports Arsenal. Now, this is about Miranda, so I'm talking about that. She is quieter, she's more measured, but sensible? No. She is highly, as you can see, she's highly creative, and we all agree a fabulous musician. Not only that, she and I have had some wonderful nonsense conversations a la Edward Lear mode. You know, I often talk to her in a quite insane way, and she answers perfectly normally. I say, how was Edward Pamplemousse today when he brought around his giraffe? And she'll say, well, you know, he didn't quite measure up to the occasion. The giraffe pooed everywhere. She'll just give me a nonsense answer for a nonsense question. And her fertile mind has, as you all know, created this magical, poetic world of quanimals. I am so proud that this has just come out of her mind, and it's just the Aesop-like beauty of the humanitarian points that the poems make, but it's the rhythms, the rhymes of them, the description, and the fact she's written some music to them as well, and she's got puppeteers involved, and she's just generated this thing, you know, in this avian world. Or but she's always been slightly nuts about birds. I mean, look around you, birds. She even had Rory decorated with an enormous and permanent parrot on his chest. Now, my theory is, I think that he likes it, but refusal was not an option. Now, much has already been made of Milo, this little tiny 4-inch terrorist. And he's got a tyrannical sway over both their lives. They can't open the windows in the summer. They have to be quiet. You know, he has an ego that is in inverse relation to his size. Despite him shitting at random everywhere, despite him having a worrying carnal interest in plastic bags, despite him essentially dictating their lives and him hating most visitors, Miranda is devoted to Milo. I want to ask you, it's interesting, this is a test of how honest you are, as a survey, what you think of Milo. There are 3 possible answers, and I want you to be part of the survey. The question is, do you like Milo or dislike him? So that's a binary question, but the answers are, there are 3. You either like him, you can't stand him, or you'd rather not say. So, like him. Can't stand him. Rather not say. QED. Joking apart, though, we know that Miranda's fertile mind has produced a wonderful set of poems, such as The Pigeon and the Peacock. It was my privilege to let Miranda run some ideas over me during lockdown when this considerable project was germinating. I love being part of that. Doesn't it speak volumes about her that she's driven this forward, engaged the musicians, puppeteers, and got an Arts Council funding as a result of it? So I've given her a... The absolute truth about Miranda is that she is quite simply a wonderful woman. If she were a bird herself, without question she would be an owl. She has such wisdom and insight. Jones already touched on this, and Jones already mentioned that our family all agree she is our rock. I'm getting emotional. Oh, damn! And if things need to be talked over, her counselling skills, her clear thinking and ability to go beyond bias is completely remarkable. I bet many of you sitting out there will have experienced this in some way. She's...
Oh, keep it together.
Jump up, down. She's always faithful to her friends, isn't she? And always a go-to when you're feeling slightly crap. And at this point, I want to pay a tribute to her friends. It's lovely being in a house with some of them, you know, last night. I just think her friends are very much like her. They are faithful too. They're lovely people. And I want to give a big shout out to her friends, some of which I used to teach. And her friends go back a long way. And I love you all. Right from an early age, she was an independent thinker, finding solutions to things in her own way. Before she could walk, she was determined to find a way of travelling before she could walk. And being Miranda, she achieved this by two techniques. One was rocking. She had this little chair made of wire, you know, they used to have in the sort of 1990s. And she was only a thing, she managed to rock across the kitchen. And the other technique, I could ask you to demonstrate, but, was called rowing. She couldn't actually walk, so she sat on her bottom and her both legs would go left, right, left, right. And we were at Stratford once, you know, quite near the water, and we were talking, and Miranda had rowed nearly to the water's edge. Miranda! And get to drag her back. So shows her independence, her own sense of logic. She thinks things through in her own way. And it led her to assimilate the names of body parts before she knew what actually they were called. And once, poor little thing, she fell over and she was in floods of tears. I said, Miranda, what's wrong? She said, I've hurt my beard! And of course I fell about laughing. It's not funny! So, her mind also is extraordinary with directions. I should have named her Google Maps Lewis, because very often we drive into the middle of some foreign town, we go out to a bistro or restaurant and stuff, and I always forget where we left the car. Miranda always seemed to know. She's got this amazing sense of direction. Went to see her in Edinburgh when she was doing a show there, and she just knew Edinburgh, all the little roads. She's clear in her thinking, but like the owl, but unlike owl, she also has deep emotional connection with people, animals, family, friends, and cats. It's not only birds, she loves cats. And the children, when they were children, grew up with these two cats, Crunchy and Truffle. And they were devoted to her. And especially Miranda was devoted to Crunchy. And when they died, Crunchy and Truffle, Miranda put these beautiful eulogies on, this is where the poetry started, on Facebook, and they were just gorgeous. But for those of you who haven't heard the Crunchy story, there's a story associated with Crunchy, which I've got to tell. One day, Crunchy was a rather mad ginger cat, and he could be quite vicious at times, but Miranda had a special bond with Crunchy. And so there was a knock at the door, and a poor man was standing there saying, have you got a ginger cat? And I said, yes. I'm really sorry. I've run it over and killed it. And I said, oh my God. I instantly thought that Miranda would be seeing psychiatrists for years about this. And so Miranda was upstairs. She was only about 8. And I thought, how am I going to tell her? So I picked up this ginger cat, put it in a sack, and Miranda said, what's going on? And I thought, well, I better tell her. I said, Miranda, I'm afraid Crunchy's being knocked down. So where is he? I said, well, he's in the sack. He said, oh! So she was terribly upset. She was distraught. And I thought, what do I do with this, you know, Crunchy? So I took him round the side of the house in a plastic bag. And there, on the wall, was the real Crunchy. So I thought it was a ghost. I had the corpse, and I went, ah! And this cat, and it wasn't Crunchy at all. And I went round and said, this isn't crunchy. And Miranda didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So she did both at the same time. He's alive! Anyway, she's kind of got fond of our latest cat, Buffy, so she does love cats. Lastly, don't misjudge the mildness. When she sees a wrong, this, on the surface of it, mild, serene Miranda is a lioness. She won't take crap. A recent story that deeply impressed me, it got Ruth a bit more worried, but impressed me. She was on the underground. And it was, you know what it's like on the underground? You've always got the drunk. You've always got the person who's like, ah! And somebody in her carriage who was anti-vaxxer, he was going on about masks and people wearing... Miranda had enough of this. So she stood up and said, "You're the one that's ruining the atmosphere in here. Everybody else is just minding the..." And she really told him off. And I thought, yeah. Many people would just look away and just find their fingernails interesting. Not Miranda. She's a woman of principle and conviction, and I love her for that. And with an amazing moral compass. She's driven by a deep sense of what is fair, right, and kind. This imbues everything that she does. Stop it. Down. Her sense of going for what is right and best has led her to realise that she has chosen the best possible partner in Rory, who shares her energy, her sense of ethical values, who's empathetic and fun. It has been a slightly long courtship, but when Rory came chin first into our... What he does, he goes, "Hello." I had to mention Rory's chin. And Rory's chin comes first, even more now because he's got a beard. But have you noticed that his chin always comes first? "How are you, Rory?" "Oh, fine, thanks." Yeah. Anyway, when he came chin first into our lives, we knew he was a good one, and we have long hoped that this day would come. Today exemplifies how Rory and Miranda have a real sense of union and shared vision. This is an example of how their minds think together and how they always share ideas and come together in a kind of synthesis. Our daughter is a wonderful and loving person, and I'll sign off by saying that this day she's chosen wisely to wed her true love. And I know that Ruth and I speak, everything I say is on behalf of my lovely wife Ruth. I'd like to say that we are truly delighted. I'd like to raise another toast to my beloved daughter and her son-in-law and wish them long life and happiness. Thank you.
That was amazing. We're going to have some starters now.
Doing really well.
I was a bit nervous. Shaking notes. Lovely starters. I'm sure if Miranda and Rory had it all their way, we'd be eating turnip bread with a pumpkin souffle. So that was actually really nice. So thank you for that. It's now time for Ruth Lewis to say a few words. I'm joking, Mum. I'm joking. I wouldn't want to put you through all that. Don't worry. But speaking of worry, it's now time for the best man speech. So without further ado, over to you, Samir.
Yeah. Woo! Hello. Is this thing on? All right, hello. Hello, everyone. Nice and easy crowd. That's good. Okay. It's great to be here, finally seeing these two getting married at long last. It wasn't always clear that we'd get here today. There were some delays, we know, with COVID, etc. But I wasn't always sure that Rory and Miranda would get married. This is a good start. There you go. He's never been more nervous than right now. So I had heard that allegedly, Miranda had presented Rory with an ultimatum that if after 10 years together, Rory hadn't proposed, she would have to seriously consider their relationship. Pretty serious stuff. So, luckily for them and us, Rory proposed after, what was it, 8 years?
9.5.
9? 9.5, okay. All right. So it's not like you to, Rory wouldn't cut things fine. He's always on time for things. Rory's late to things about 90% of the time, I'd say, and that's being generous. So I think this is a compliment that he proposed on time in this particular deadline. So well done, mate. Rory is one of the worst people in the world at organising things. Sorry. There are some nice things that come in the end. And obviously the wedding's wonderful, but I think that was... I'm just glad that he's managed to show up today at the right time, at the right place, in the right shoes. So well done, mate. We're all proud of you. Rory had actually entered a tennis tournament that was due to take place today. And it wasn't until I told him that I hadn't entered this tournament because it was on his wedding day that he realised that he can't do it anyway. So he decided to play in the qualifying rounds just to see if he could get to the tournament final, which was today. But he lost. But lucky for us, Rory doesn't mind losing. It's not a problem at all. So yes, for those of you who don't know me, I see a lot of faces I don't recognise. I'm Samir. It's lovely to meet you. You're all very nice. I've known Rory for 18 years, since we were about 12 years old, which is a very long time. And as you can imagine, we've changed a lot. We've grown up. Rory has a haircut now. It's beautiful. Nice one. The one thing that hasn't changed since we were 12 is Rory's sense of humour. He still has the sense of humour of a 12-year-old boy. Rory was telling me the story recently of how he met his Miranda's university friends for the first time. And we all know how it is when you're meeting your partner's friends for the first time. You want to make a good impression, make sure they like you. And if you're Rory, you can then claim that they're your friends too. When it comes to your wedding and your guest list side is looking a little bit thin. So Rory's getting ready to meet Miranda's friends for the first time, and someone, I think it's one of his brothers, sent him a video. Now, Rory found this video very, very funny. He can't stop watching it. It's the most hilarious thing he's ever seen. So, true to form, the first time he meets Miranda's university friends, he's shoving his phone in their face. Oh, you've got to see this video. It's so funny. It's so funny. So, what was this video? Rory's brothers had sent him a song. A song titled Willy Willy Bum Bum. More of you know Rory than I thought. Okay. So how does this song go, you ask? Let me read you some of the lyrics, just to get an idea of Rory's sense of humour. I've got a little willy, I put it in my bum. Me and my bum have all kinds of fun. I wanted to play it on my phone, but I think you get the idea. So this goes on for another 4 minutes at least. Us as our long-suffering friends of Rory, we've heard this too many times. Needless to say, I don't think Miranda's friends, who were all studying music at the time, found it quite as funny as he did. If those friends are here, please find me afterwards. I'd love to find out how you've forgiven him for that. So this makes it all the more amazing to me that these two are together. So on one hand, you have Miranda playing esteemed venues in most popular venues in all of London, and Rory on the other side, whose favourite genre of music is comedy rap. It's a match made in heaven. It's beautiful. Rory's a big hip hop fan. He was Eminem's. He wasn't Eminem's idol. He idolized Eminem. He wishes he was Eminem's idol. From a young age, he styled himself after Eminem. So if you ask him now, he'll recite you any Eminem song very, very easily. Another one of Rory's favourite songs is a comedy rap in which a man raps about the size of his genitalia. I'm going to spare you that. I was trying to find a line that would be, PG. It's none of it. So I must say, despite his sense of humour not changing since we were 12, and neither has mine, to be fair, I still laugh at all your jokes. I've watched him grow and become a really conscientious and empathetic person who cares about other people and is the best friend you could ever ask for. There's some nice stuff, I promise. His competitiveness is often used as a punchline, but it's that drive, fight, and ambition that saw him run 3 marathons in 3 days. He also recently, during a tennis match between the two of us, came back from 1 set down to take it to a 3rd set, so that's equally impressive, I think. He trained to run an ultramarathon on his birthday, not because there was a race on the same day, but he wanted to set himself an ambitious goal to fulfill, and I think that says everything about Rory, as we know him. If you've got an event, a show, a birthday party, a bar mitzvah, whatever it is, Rory will be the first person to be there, and he won't let you down. We were at a show a few years ago where Miranda was performing with a trio. Looking forward to this. So Miranda's trio was supporting a musician who played quite abstract jazz. So you have your sort of your more conventional jazz. This was a bit more like. Thank you. Looking forward to that all day. But to look next to me and see Eminem's biggest fan, grinning ear to ear, so proud to see Miranda performing, despite the wasp intervention. You wouldn't know that, it's beautiful. Miranda could be performing poetry in Japanese and Rory would be there smiling ear to ear, so it would be the same thing. But I've gotten to know Miranda very well over the years, in particular after they moved in together. Rory would always that's always a good sign. Yeah, Rory would always tell me stories about the new ways he'd found to annoy Miranda. So I was a little bit worried about their relationship. He'd often start an anecdote with, "She hates it when I do this." And the way that he says she hates it is so full of glee. It's amazing. But what I've learned from spending time with Miranda is that she gives as good as she gets. And if anything, I think she has just as much fun annoying Rory as he does her. So that's good. Rory was telling me how they like to play a game, where they try and embarrass each other in public. So when one person is embarrassed and asks the other to stop, they lose the game. Rory, being the shameless person that he is, I had always assumed that he would win this game. But apparently Miranda is quite the player. The best example of this I heard is when they were sat next to each other on a crowded tube train. Like, packed. All of a sudden, out of the blue, Miranda just screams, "Ah!" Rory's like, I quit, you win! It's not easy to make Rory concede, so you've done well there. Well played, Miranda. I'm going to wrap up now, and there's a few things I wanted to mention that I didn't manage to talk about, or fit into the speech format. Rory's nipple piercing. Does anyone remember that? Two of them, apparently. We all got our ears pierced, and he got his nipple pierced. Anyway. There's the way that he said falafel instead of falafel for about 5 years before I finally corrected him. I'm glad someone referenced your malapropisms, they're good. And there's many, many more things, including the scavenger hunt of Rory's 18th birthday. Yes. We have some attendees here, that's good. This is the best bit because Rory's really nervous now. Okay, what am I going to say? I was going to bring this up as the people that were there might have expected, but I have spared him. Come find me after if you want to find which vegetable Rory inserted inside himself. I had to get one in there. But lastly, on a more serious note, I've always been quite cynical with relationships. Ooh, okay, I'm going somewhere with this, like, trust me. My parents weren't that well suited to each other, so they didn't end up together. And I had some difficult relationships growing up. All right, sympathy. I'm going to turn it around now, don't worry. So I haven't really had many role models to aspire to when it came to relationships. So that's why I'm so glad to be here today with Rory and Miranda, two literal childhood sweethearts. The way that you both love each other and make each other laugh after all these years is something for us all to aspire to. To the happy couple! Woo!
What a speech, that was brilliant. Thank you, Samir. Cheers. I would like to introduce now the marathon crunching, protein pounding, ceiling bashing trio of giants. Could be the Castle Gladiators or the BFG. Three men, to be honest, I couldn't be unhappier to stand next to me to make me feel less of a man. But three incredibly warming, loving lads. I think we should be all right. Rory's brothers, everyone. Craig, Callum and Cameron!
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Up. It's okay? Okay. What a hard act to follow. That was fantastic. I guess I'll go first. I always used to go first, being the oldest. Thank you very much for asking us to say a few words. Really appreciate it. You're a brave man. I'm also the nice brother, so Cameron has a captive audience tonight, so settle in. That was a great speech, Samir, and it's a real shame we weren't allowed to have a stag last year because of COVID. You would have done a fantastic job, I'm sure. However, Rory on my stag managed to get a police caution and a 24-hour ban from the town of Henley. So you may have dodged a bullet there. There were a couple of years when it was just Callum and I, and then, well, good times, simpler times. And then, of course, the whirlwind that is Cameron arrived, and then sweet little baby-faced Rory came along. And our mum and dad tried their best to raise happy, well-balanced gentlemen who were sort of, comfortable with their lot in life. They succeeded the fourth time around, I think. And the age gap is such that I do remember Rory when he was just a little boy. And he was a gentle, genuine, kind kid and did his best to keep up with his older siblings. But when you grow up with three brothers, you've got to be careful not to show any weakness, because it will be used against you in battle. And as far as I remember, Rory showed an extreme aversion to spiders, and of course anyone touching his hair. So I made sure to exploit these to the best of my ability over the years. And I also remember changing the lyrics to House of the Rising Sun to There is a Boy from Moreland Drive who has a smelly bum. And following him round like some demented troubadour around the house until he begged me to stop. So it's no wonder then that he would occasionally take himself off and have just some quiet time to himself. Dad named that the Rory moment. Where's Rory gone? He's having a Rory moment. He's just on his own. And I don't blame him, but that it's a thread that we've seen throughout his life. He does his own thing. He is his own man. He does things in his own style, and we're all massively proud of that. And one of my favourite things about Rory, and I think it's true of Miranda too, is that they don't change who they are according to the company. You could go anywhere in the world and drop them into a situation, and they'll be exactly who they are. And I think that says a lot about them. And I think it's just amazing that he found such a brilliant and unique person in Miranda. I love that they give each other the space to be individuals and to grow and to have their own passions. But then, of course, when they come together as a team, magic happens. You're unstoppable. So congratulations. I couldn't be happy for you. So before I hand over to these guys for the character assassination, please can you raise your glasses one more time to Rory and Miranda.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gents. Character assassination. I've been charged with Rory the Sportsman. So Rory the Sportsman, as you know, and if you didn't already, tennis, he's mad about tennis. So Rory's tennis player profile. So 4 traits why he's a decent tennis player, but a great guy to be around, great guy to have in your life. Okay. Number 1, Rory's speed. All right, okay, not top speed, obviously. But his change of pace, okay? This man can move slowly, painfully slowly. If you've ever had a sandwich made by him, a sushi dinner prepped by him, delicious, or had him propose to you, you'll know he can move slowly, all right? Slowly. But he has changed of pace, okay? And particularly growing up, if there's a Domino's pizza to be eaten, all right, there's Dr. Pepper to be consumed. There's all kinds of things to be consumed, which I'm sure Samir will share more about later from scavenger hunts. Okay. Or Percy Pigs and things like that. Or other speed. So reciting Lord of the Rings, being able to name an exceeding number of Pokemon characters. Speed is his forte in those kind of areas. Secondly, his stamina. So, obviously as a youngster, childhood swimmer, club swimmer as a youngster. It finished tough. Disqualification, trunks around the ankles, it's hard to finish a race. So it had a tough finish, but he was solid, and Cameron continued a bit of swimming. Rory decided to park that. Shouldn't have stolen all our stuff all the time. His trunks, eh? During school time, basketball is on the court lots at secondary school. Lots of basketball, building that stamina more latterly. Lots of marathons. We mentioned the Jurassic Coast Marathon, 3 back-to-back. Robin Hood half marathon, zoomed past me, had time to stop for his vape and still finished way ahead of me. So he's got good stamina, this boy. Number 3 is composure. We've already spoken a bit about his composure from embarrassed. We've mentioned getting embarrassed. This is the most I've ever seen this guy get embarrassed. It's so hard. It's so hard that they even have it as a sport between them to can you embarrass each other. He's also unflappable. By this, I don't mean in a typical athlete sense or a tennis player sense, but more he can handle the biggest night out in London, Fabric, you name it, biggest club around. He'll still pitch up the next morning, okay, quite late, to a high stakes Dukeswood tennis tournament final, and he'll still pull a win out of the bag. I mean, if you want to know what it's like to be faced with that steaming composure, ask Callum, ask Samir. It's tough to be on the receiving end. Anyway, he's very committed. All right, number 4, again, not in a typical athlete way. If he's up at 6 a.m, it's not because he's training. It's probably because he's not been to bed yet. But he's committed to his friends and his family. So particularly, he's loyal. You're a loyal guy. You don't chop and change, friends. As has already been said, you're loyal to those you love, which is why it's amazing you have in our lives. That's 4 traits. Okay, so I think we're super compatible for reasons we've already said, but with Miranda's passion, your competitive nature, regardless of how much skill or luck there might be in a game, and you're patient as well with him, and it makes you a great match. It makes you a great mixed pairs double, a force to be reckoned with for the future. So, yeah, we wish you all the very best, and it's such a blessing to have you and have had you in our family for so long and for so long to come. So I wonder, would you be upstanding? And we need a toast to the mixed pairs couple. It's a lot of words to say at this point. To Miranda and Rory, the bride and groom. The bride and groom. Thank you very much, Yvonne.
I will say, can you hear me okay at the back? Yeah, is that right? I will say, all the references to character assassinations, I've taken a little bit personally, right? Which almost makes me want to rise to the challenge and just rip you apart. My first thought, when we were asked to do this, was what a massive pleasure to stand in front of you wonderful people on such a brilliant day that's taken so much effort and so many years of building, and speak to you all, talking about someone we love so much. I mean, it's a privilege that we couldn't possibly have hoped for. So thank you so much to both of you. We really do appreciate it. My second thought was less charitable, and that is, I have like 30 years of material on him being a complete Looney Tune. How am I not just going to take the mick for 5 minutes? How can I possibly, as an older brother, not just lay into you for the next 5 minutes? And it's really difficult. And it got me thinking, because there's been such a lovely portrayal of your character, I feel like I can't now. But it got me thinking as to why that's the case. Why even now, when we are on paper at least adults, can I not just be a mature adult and just speak about you properly? Having thought about it, I'm going to share some conclusions with you, if you don't mind. I think it started when we were very, very young, because we're all very competitive, the 4 of us. And we have been since I can remember. Particularly Rory and I. I'm not sure why that started, but certainly I think we're the most competitive. We were the little ones, the younger ones, being younger and smaller than Craig and Callum. We were the little ones, virtually our whole upbringing. But it does something a little bit strange to your psyche when you're north of 6 foot by the time you're 15 years old. You spend every day taller than your friends, your teachers, virtually everyone you know. Then you come home to a land of flipping giants and get called the little one. There's a couple of screws that start squeaking, and you get a little bit strange. So Rory and I knew we were going to have to stand out somehow. But it wasn't altogether clear how we could do that, I think, when we were little. Certainly, Craig and Callum had things wrapped up pretty tight. You know, Callum was pretty good academically, a blooming prodigy at any sport he ever tried. Craig was very artistic and great at writing, great at singing. So it wasn't altogether clear how we could set ourselves apart. Even if you can imagine such a thing, when we were kids, girls tended to find them attractive. So we couldn't even rely on that. I don't mean now, I mean back when we were kids. I can see the confusion. I mean not now. About 15 years ago, okay? So we couldn't even rely on that. So it wasn't obvious what we were going to do. So my tactic to stand out was pretty much to be obnoxious and steal the limelight whenever I could, which clearly I've grown out of and would never dream of doing now, as is obvious. And I also did my sport that no one else played in and just did it off my own and hid away from it. Rory took exactly the opposite approach, and he just took on everyone at everything. Anything you could think of to do, he would challenge you at it. And I can already see some faces. You all know exactly what I'm talking about, right? I don't want to trigger any PTSD, but you all know we've already heard examples tonight. You know, you want to run a marathon. He's going to run 3 in 3 days just because. You want to go out for a couple of quiet pints after work. He's going to see your 2 pints and raise you 11, right? He doesn't have a lesser setting, right? You want to get your ear pierced as a nice little edgy gesture. We've already heard about his nipple piercings. 3 piercings he had in his nipples. And I can see you doing some quick maths, right? Dividing the number of piercings by the number of nipples we assume he has, right? If you're wondering how that feat is achieved, it was a cross. That's how he did that left nipple. Was it the left nipple? Left, thank you. Yeah, great. Yeah, I wouldn't want to get that wrong. So he would take us on at everything, and he never really learned, I think, because of the brotherly situation, the competition. He never learned how to do things calmly and quietly. He would always just throw himself into things as hard as he could, and I really respect that. I mean, you can just take his diet, which obviously Jerome alluded to. He wanted to think about his diet a bit more, his ecological footprint. He could have been a vegetarian, a pescatarian. He could have just gone to meat liquor one less time per month. And that would have accomplished what he was trying to do. But there was never a moment of that. It was just, I'm going to be a full-fledged vegan. And as Jerome said, you might not realise he is a vegan because he never mentions it, ever. So that might have skipped you altogether. Now, there are downsides, of course, to this kind of personality, this all-committing personality. You know, he might not be the most relaxing person to play a game of Uno with, right? He's probably also one game of hide and seek away from never being seen again. But this is just the kind of guy that he is. But if it sounds as though I think there are only downsides in this personality, then I shall have failed in my mission statement, because it is absolutely mind-blowing to see how hard he is able to work, how much he throws himself into stuff, and what he's able to achieve. We are absolutely brimming with pride. Having watched all of the fantastic decisions you've made over the last 15 years that have culminated today in you marrying someone who is so perfect for you as Miranda, it gives us absolutely nothing but pride. And as the other little one, I absolutely model myself on you in more ways than I'm emotionally mature enough to admit. But they are absolutely there, and it has filled us with pride to watch you the last few years. With regards to Miranda, I'm not going to stand here and pretend we're welcoming her into our family, because that would be complete nonsense, because as far as we're concerned, she's been part of this family for absolutely years. Sometimes begrudgingly, I'm sure. But now to formally welcome you is just an absolute delight. And full and frank disclosure, you know, we don't communicate well, we make mistakes, we annoy the hell out of each other, as you well know. But the fact that you would join our family and improve our lot is an absolute gift, and we are truly delighted. You are clearly a fantastic match for each other. Rory will always match what he sees and raise it, as I said. But there's a flip side of that. If you show him love and care and support, if you're a good friend to Rory, he will be a great friend to you. And that is why he is a fantastic friend, a fantastic brother, and I'm certain he is going to be a fantastic husband. So if you will let us speak a little longer, please join me in raising a glass to family.
We're now going to have some mains. Enjoy. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you very much, everyone. What a lovely day. I'm sure you'll all agree. It's now time. We've got one more speech for Mr. Brown Lewis to speak and see the speeches off. So you've signed your sporran and ski and do over to my sister. You've given up the meat. You've given up the dairy. You've mastered how to deal with my family like a master psychologist. So can I just get everyone to stand up one more time and give a big way for Rory as he makes his way over my brother-in-law.
Thank you very much, Jerome, for the introduction. I've only had some stories of you for later, but we'll get there. It's been such a great day so far, and I just want to say a massive thank you from me and Miranda, my now wife. To you all for being here today. There's been a lot of time over the last 3 years that we've been engaged where we genuinely weren't sure we would get to celebrate with you all here today. And it's just been lovely seeing you all here. We've got friends who unfortunately couldn't make it from Costa Rica, France, New Zealand and Turkey, and others in the UK who unfortunately were ill, so weren't able to be here. There's also my granny, my grandma, and Miranda's nanny, or aka Naughty Nanny. If you want to find out why, ask. Who unfortunately can't be here today. They're not well enough to travel here, but we have them here in spirit. And I'm sure my granny would be incredibly happy to see so much tartan on show. So, sorry, before you do, can we all, first of all, we topped a Prosecco. If you need some more, please shout. We've got a few toasts in this one. So can we, first of all raise a glass to absent friends and family? Okay. I wrote a lot of this before today, as you'd hopefully imagine. But I've got to make a few alterations because I wanted to say how grateful we are for all the help we've had. That does not cover it. We're not DIY people. Like, we really are not DIY people. And for some reason we planned a DIY wedding, which was very stupid. And yeah, before I go into what I've already written, it would not be what it is without everyone. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, genuinely. Okay, so some formal thank yous. So first of all, I want to say a big thank you to Louis, to Emma and Aisling for your readings. We're both really grateful to have you involved in the wedding. And we're also really glad to have had Jenny and Hallam as our ring bearers. So thank you. Not quite a lot, but a special shout out to Louis for helping us when 48 hours out from the wedding, we realised we couldn't transport half the Prosecco we had to here. So he drove around in his Mini at 10:30 in the evening. So yeah, a special thank you for that. And I mean, I'm not sure anyone's surprised, but a huge thank you to Chesky. What an incredible performance when we all came in earlier. You should try and do it professionally, genuinely. And the last one is one very close to my heart for obvious reasons, to my wonderful nephews who were adorable and their parents who helped them get down the aisle. They looked absolutely amazing. And everyone who I've just mentioned, you made the ceremony absolutely perfect. So thank you. Coming on to the venue and setting it up, thank you to everyone who folded cranes. Jesus, there's a lot of cranes. We really did not work that one out beforehand. So it takes a very long time. So a massive thank you. I might miss people, but especially to Ange, to Tony, Craig, Kaz, my mum, Jeremy, and a later Herculean effort from Libby, just as we got to the end, helping us get over the line. Also, the name places in front of you, I know you might have already seen, they're actually train tickets from when me and Miranda were at university, so I kept all mine from going back and forth to Sheffield over the years, which has completely ratified my hoarding instinct. So I can now hoard whenever I want. So, David, come on, mate. Don't do a Rubens, jeez. Where was I? So my last thank you for this bit is Jade for doing the calligraphy, every single name place by hand. It looks incredible, so thank you, Jade. So, can everyone raise a glass to my next toast, to friends and family. Thank you. So, possibly the biggest thanks so far has to go to Amy for officiating our wedding. You've been... You've been such a great friend for over 12 years to us both, and we just can't believe how incredible a job you did today. And I know I wrote this 2 days ago, and this is why I'm caveating it, because that was incredible. Like, you smashed it out of the park, so thank you so much. So, for my next toast, can everyone please raise a glass for Amy? Jesus. To the Lewises, thank you for being my unofficial second family and in-laws for the last 12 and a half years. Whilst I can now call you my parents-in-law and brother and sister-in-law, I've been very lucky that I've been treated like a brother and a son by you all since day one, without any exception. So thank you so, so much. And to the Browns, the Malone Browns, and even a Conley, thank you for all your support and love over the course of planning this wedding. And I've had an incredibly fortunate upbringing, and despite the fights after wearing your boxers, losing your coats multiple times in a year, and backwashing consistently in the iron brew, I've loved growing up with three older brothers who I adore and I admire. Dad, there you are. You taught me to treat everyone, in any situation, in your words, like a big blue bunny rabbit. I'm 30 and I still don't entirely know what that means. But thank you anyway. And Mum, thank you for your optimism. Everyone has spoken a lot about positivity today, and I owe a great deal of it to you. So to family, old and new, can everyone raise a toast? So I mentioned my mum's positivity, but there were times where that wasn't completely the case. So Mum, going all the way back to the beginning of how me and Miranda's journey started, we've spoken about the texting, Harriet. But it actually all began with some lovely and inspiring words of confidence from my mum. So Miranda, for anyone who didn't know this, did her year 10 work experience at a school called Chesham Boys Primary School, where my mum was the head teacher. So actually, without me knowing, she met Miranda first. So a couple of years later, I was off to Miranda's house for our first official date to watch The Dark Knight on DVD. So we all knew there was a second date coming after that. But my mum asked me where I was going, and I was trying to keep it short, snappy, to a friend called Miranda's house. So I started walking off, and Miranda Lewis, my mum replied, sort of half smiling. Now, as has been mentioned already, we are not big communicators in the Brown household. No. So I was incredibly confused how my mum knew who Miranda was. And as if I wasn't clamming up with nerves already, my mum just turned and said, well, she's a bit out of your league, isn't she? I'm relatively confident, but that was not the booster I needed. And yes, she was out of my league, and she most definitely still is today. So, meeting Miranda's family. It was very, 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 very full on, surprisingly. I arrived for our first date, and I met Tony at the door, rollie in hand, a very nice handshake, and Miranda had me 2 steps up to her room before the interrogation began. Ruth could very easily have stolen my identity after that first 5-minute interaction. She knew everything about me other than my PIN number, I think. But obviously, she was getting to grips with the guy who her daughter was dating. I met her then, 14-year-old Chesky, who was walking around the house doing the loudest vocal warm-ups you've ever heard. Does not matter the time of day. She did them. I won't do an impression because I literally can't, but you know what I'm talking about. The date went as you'd imagine. Again, we're watching The Dark Knight. Accompanied by, as we've already spoken about, Crunchy the cat. who I very quickly realised was the main man, or the main squeeze, in Miranda's life. But as you heard a little bit about earlier, the final member of Miranda's family by far made the strongest entrance. So we heard the front door open. There were some muffled voices before I heard quick, heavy footsteps running up to Miranda's room. Miranda jumped up, and before she could even warn me of what was about to happen, Jerome smashed through the door, his friend Sam close in tail, and they just jumped onto me onto the bed. I was absolutely terrified. He asked me who I was. Fair, that's a good first question. And he put his arm around me. And I'm not paraphrasing here, this is a direct quote. He imparted words of wisdom on me that have stuck with me for the rest of my life. He'd been out that night, possibly the Misty Moon, hopefully the Misty Moon in Chesham. And he had a chat-up line to share with me. He said, "You've got to look him in the eyes and say, 'Sit on my piece.' You'll find your peace." Now, you could say, wait. You could say it's a positive that me and Miranda have been together ever since. Because I really don't know how much luck I would have had with that chat-up line in single life. But, Jerome has also, as we mentioned earlier, just welcomed into the world baby Theo Charles Lewis. So at least we know it works. Meeting my family went almost as smoothly. I appreciate you've heard this a little bit already, but being the stud muffin that I am, I invited Miranda to my aunt's 40th birthday. An 80s-themed fancy dress party. It was me and Miranda, my brother Craig and his wife Kaz, and my mum who went. Classic second date vibes. And again, other than awkwardly dancing with your family and a girl you're dating to like a virgin, it started very well. Until I was spotted by one of Kirsty's childhood friends. Kirsty is my auntie. I can't remember her name, but a lady came over with her husband. She asked me if I remember her. And after I said no, she said she used to help my auntie babysit me. Great, cute, fine. And then as if she could sense that I was on basically my second date and I needed a helping hand to look cool in front of my hopefully future girlfriend, she said, "You used to love my boobs." Apparently as a child I did. I'm not ashamed. And she kindly elaborated on this for a couple of minutes with some very handsy anecdotes. So, whatever your name is, thank you for that. After this, somehow, we decided to stick together and go on our separate ways to university. Well, on the whole, we made a really decent effort at having a long-distance relationship. And of all the hardest things I've done in the last 12 years in my life, it doesn't make top 50. It was easy. And I really mean that, genuinely. I'm very lucky that I made friends with her group from Sheffield University, many of which are here today. And also with the infamous Galdems of Chesham represent. And I'm sure you will all be a huge part of our lives going forward. After graduating from university, Miranda decided, as we've heard already, to follow her passion, really begin her career in the exciting world of camping and the outdoors. So she started working part-time at Millets. Equally, I honed my love of beer and putting on weight by working at the Royal Standard pub. It was a very strange 18 months, trying to work out what we both wanted to do. Eventually, we both made the jump into London, where Miranda developed her ability as a teacher and began her career as a professional musician. There were a lot of gigs, a fair few bands she played with that have not stood the test of time, but I'm very fortunate that there are others who've become lifelong friends and vegan allies. Miranda, you mentioned earlier, you remind me all the time that I used to make a very bad first impression. But nothing will quite compare or beat when you first stayed in my flat in Shadwell, East London, my first flat after moving into town. Charlie, Jordan and I, and our other flatmate Danny, we'd already left for the day. And so Miranda decided to very peacefully pop out for a shower in the flat to herself about 12 hours after meeting my new flatmates and my first time in London. She proceeded to get stuck in the bathroom after the doorknob fell off the other side. Now, it was a good 12 hours till anyone would come home. So Miranda thought quickly, calmly, and decided to attempt to kick her way out. And covered in blood, decided to take it up a gear. She picked up the nearby iron, and I'm not exaggerating, smashed a hole through the door. It was big enough that she could very easily climb through. Not once, because she wanted to get out, write a lovely handwritten note that wasn't covered in blood and really fucking weird. Not twice, to go back in and have the shower, because she's sweaty from breaking my door. But thirdly, to get out, leave all the debris on the floor, and get the hell out of Dodge. I've been living there for 2 weeks, just as context. And so a thank you to Jordan and Charlie for helping me get a door on the DLR from Canning Town back to Shadwell to avoid paying. So, after moving around South London for a few years in, as I'm sure Jerome would say, my glamorous apartments. And we were very lucky. We lived with some of our best friends, but we realised that the three of us had outgrown our 2-bed flat with Louis and Mel in Surrey Quays. As we've already spoken a lot about, anyone who spent more than a minute with us will have probably heard us mention Milo, our parrot, our amigo, our third member of the group. We've had him for 8 years, and he's quite literally left his mark on us multiple times. After convincing Mel that Milo just wasn't the one for her, I'm sorry, we decided to go our separate ways, and Miranda and I ended up in Arsenal. It's been an incredible home for us. We've shared a hell of a lot of memories there. Miranda, she's had to reduce her teaching days to make more room for her music career. I can't begin to explain how proud of you I am. And some of my happiest memories have been just following you around London, watching you perform Royal Festival Hall, the Jazz Cafe, Ronnie Scott's. It's just been absolutely incredible, and I'm so, so proud. As Tony mentioned earlier, you're now at the point where you're creating your own stories, being commissioned to do work, and have puppeteers do music that you've composed and arranged, and it's amazing. I have definitely had to get used to the disappointment in people's eyes when Miranda says all that, and I say, yeah, I work in sales. Not recruitment for half the room. Still, the last 5 years in North London have had some of our best memories yet. We've done walks around Highgate Woods, we discovered Yard Pizza, we've made some terrible pottery, and just memories in our flat itself where we got engaged. If I had to sum up Miranda in a story or a theme, it would just have to be fun. You bring so much fun to everything we do. And despite the stress, the faff, and all that, and the planning of this wedding, it's also brought so much fun. It's been mentioned by Samir, but we have games we play. Again, we try and embarrass each other when we're in public places, shouting weird words, asking very inappropriate questions, with one of us eventually backing down. But Miranda, as you might have seen with Nunu earlier, she brings it in more creative ways. She's always enhancing the competition. So after sending me countless pictures of naughty Nunu via WhatsApp for absolutely no reason, she started posting pictures of him addressed to my work. So I'd open them in front of my colleagues, which was really fun. So, again, I've got to stress here, Miranda is just as competitive, or dare I say it, more competitive than I am. And she took it to a new level while we were planning the wedding. So under the pseudonym, Vegan Weddings for the number U at outlook.com, Miranda created a fake vegan catering company. And over the course of a month, had multiple conversations with me over email about catering our wedding. She had me emailing back and forth with a chap called California and his cousin Colin about platters of exclusively avocado and hummus. I genuinely planned to, but I'm not going to read the entire emails out. But in total, and I counted, the words avocado and hummus were mentioned 50 times in our correspondence. It culminated in me having the opportunity to create a short 20-second video explaining why I love avocados and hummus so much in order to win free canapes for our wedding. I'll be honest, I'm gullible. And she almost had me. After multiple times of being chased up to create this video about why I love avocados and hummus, I got home from work and we had Jazz staying with us at the time, and I sat down thinking, how do I go about filming this video of why I love avocados and hummus so much? And I looked at Jazz and she wouldn't hold my eye contact. And I looked down at Miranda's laptop that was open on the sofa and I saw her emails in an Outlook account, and it just dawned on me. What kind of business has an Outlook email address? So, I did what I'd recommend no one does to anyone, let alone their partner. I went through her history. I went back to the day I first got an email from California and Colin, and I saw that she created a fake email address. But what I also found was that she'd created a second fake email address. It was called agutihonanon@outlook.com. And after I searched my work emails, I noticed that she'd made multiple inquiries to both myself and my company. Can you tell it was our summer holidays? So all I know about this email address is that it is an anagram of Naughty Nunu. It's full circle, there we go. And I mean this honestly, to this day, I don't know what Miranda's endgame was with the emails to my work address. I don't know what she was planning. It's slightly terrifying. But I really just hope that we continue to do this stupid, weird stuff to each other for the rest of our lives. I promise I can think of nothing that I would love more. So, can everybody be upstanding one more time? And can you all raise a glass to California and Colin, Aguti Honanon, my best friend, and now my wife, and to Miranda.